UFC 139 conference call. Today's call is being recorded. At this time, I'd like to turn things over to Mr. Dave Schaller. Please go ahead, sir.
All right, thanks, Abe, and good morning and good afternoon to everyone joining the UFC 139 media call. Today we are joined on the call by Mauricio Shogun Hua, who will be translated by Eduardo Alonso, Dan Henderson, Wanderlei Silva, and Cung Lee. UFC 139 Shogun versus Hendo takes place this Saturday night from the HP Pavilion in San Jose, California. It will be live on pay-per-view at 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific. At this time, Abe, let's go ahead and open it up for questions.
All right, certainly. Thank you very much. Well, ladies and gentlemen, if you would like to queue up to ask a question at this time, please press star, then 1 on your touch-tone telephone keypad. Again, that's star 1 if you'd like to queue up to ask a question at this time, and we will pause for a moment to assemble our roster. And once again, ladies and gentlemen, that's star 1 to queue up to ask a question. All right, great. We'll go first to Ron Kruk with Inside MMA.
Morning, everyone. Start with a quick question for Cung Lee. Cung, it's been a little while since you've been in action and making your UFC debut here. Could you, number one, talk about the long layoff, and then two, would you give us your thoughts on making your debut in the UFC?
Yes, I've had a long layoff, but this time around I made sure I stayed in shape and just training on a consistent basis. And as soon as I came back from China in February, I was back in the gym sparring and grappling and wrestling. So I feel good, and fighting in the UFC is it's an honor, and I'm very excited to be part of the UFC now.
Great. I appreciate that. Quick question for Wanderlei Silva. Wanderlei, as you come into this fight, I know the fight fans are excited to see you back in action. What do you feel that you still have to prove or accomplish in mixed martial arts? You've done so much for the sport, but is there something that you still want to accomplish before you retire?
No, I think all what I'm doing in the past is really good. I trained for a long time, but I need to prove all again. And I know and I need to have a good performance in that fight. And there's a reason I train so much, and I hope I make myself happy around the world.
Thanks, guys.
All right, great. Thank you very much. Well, again, ladies and gentlemen, if you would like to queue up to ask a question at this time, it's star 1 on your touch-tone telephone keypad. Again, that is star 1. All right, great. Thanks for your patience. We'll go next to Neil Davidson with the Canadian Press.
Yes, thank you. My question is for Dan Henderson. Dan, you've fought all over the world and in different organizations and for the UFC several times. Does it feel how do you feel coming back to the organization this time, or is it just part of business?
It's pretty much just part of business, and but it does feel good to realize that this is probably where I'm going to end up and finish my career in the UFC. So, I'm excited about it, and the fact that they got a pretty big Fox deal now is even more exciting to me as well.
And if I can follow up, assuming you win on Saturday night, where do you think this places you? What should you be doing next? Your next fight?
I'm not gonna worry about that right now. I mean, I think as long as I do what I need to do inside the cage, and the rest will take care of itself. But moving forward, I really need to just make sure that I get what I need in the cage first, or done in the cage first, and then worry about everything else later.
And just one last one, if I may. How do you feel these days? Do you feel that you have more fights in you, or are you taking it one at a time? Do you have any game plan?
yeah, I definitely feel like I got a lot of fight left in me, and I come with a game plan for every opponent, every fight. So, you know, I'm excited about fighting Shogun. It's something I think the fans have been looking forward to for a long time and wanting for a long time. And he's a tough opponent and well-rounded, and definitely a huge challenge for me to get past.
Okay, thank you. Good luck.
No problem.
Thank you very much. Now moving on, we'll go to Damon Martin with MMAWeekly.com.
Yeah, first question is for Shogun. Shogun, you had a great showing in your last fight, and you bounced back strong from the loss to John Jones. But do you feel like your activity, staying busy, is a big part of your performance, not dealing with the injuries you had for so long in your UFC career?
Maurício, pergunta para você, você teve uma grande performance na última luta contra o Forrest Griffin, se recuperando bem da luta contra o John Jones. Você acredita que se mantém atividade e lutar frequentemente é uma chave para você se recuperar dessas lesões e estar sempre num ritmo bom e estar numa boa performance?
Acho que com certeza. Acho que das minhas lesões eu estou recuperado 100% já, e para um atleta não é duro ficar um ano parado, né? Então eu gosto de lutar direto, a cada 3, 4 meses eu gosto de estar lutando, então para mim é bom porque eu fico já no ritmo da luta e bem treinado. Então para mim é perfeito isso e eu gostaria de manter isso sempre.
Yes, for sure. I think I'm 100% recovered from my injuries, and for a fighter, it's very tough to stay sidelined for 1 year without competing. As a fighter, I like to stay active and stay busy and fight often and keep a rhythm. And thank God I'm recovering from my injuries, so I hope to be able to keep this rhythm going on and keep fighting, being active like that for a long time.
Do you believe, also for Shogun, is there a certain statement to be made in this fight to put you back into the title picture? A lot of people look at this as maybe a number one contenders fight. I know you'd like another shot at John Jones. Is there a statement to be made in this fight?
Você acredita, Maurício, que essa luta você precisa fazer vamos dizer assim, deixar um marco, provar alguma coisa, dar um recado, vamos dizer assim, porque todo mundo sabe que você quer disputar o cinturão de novo, ter uma chance de lutar com o John Jones de novo, essa luta pode te credenciar a disputar o cinturão de novo. Você acha que é uma luta marcante, onde você tem que e deve deixar uma marca para voltar aí a chance de disputar o cinturão?
Eu acho que com certeza é uma luta marcante, sim. O Dan Henderson é uma lenda do MMA, é um cara que foi campeão no Pride, no UFC, é um cara que tem uma história do MMA. Então, para mim, é uma luta muito marcante, sim, uma luta que representa muita coisa para mim, mas eu estou pensando nela, não estou pensando no cinturão, não estou pensando em nada. Depois dessa luta, eu penso o que eu faço, mas eu estou focado nessa luta 100%.
Well, I think certainly this is a marquee fight for me, a very important fight. Dan Henderson is a legend in MMA. He was a champion in Pride, a champion in the UFC. He's a guy with a big history in the sport. And this fight obviously means a lot to me, but I'm not thinking right now about fighting for the belt or what will come next. I'll only think about that after this fight. Right now, my whole focus is on the fight with Dan Henderson.
All right. And one question for Wanderlei. Wanderlei, after your last fight, I know Dana White had kind of mentioned that he wasn't sure if you'd come back or what your future holds. Did you at any point in your own head ever consider retirement, or did you always have it in mind you were going to come back?
No, of course. I never give up, no. I'm fighting for 20 years of my life right now. And I'm healthy. I make all tests with the doctors, and I'm too good. I'm too in great condition, and I'm gonna prove that on Saturday.
Awesome. Thanks a lot, guys.
Thank you.
All right, great. Thank you very much. Now moving on, we will take a question from Sergio Nan with USA Today.
Question for Dan Henderson and Cung Lee. I'm wondering, given that both of you are coming from Strikeforce, if you see this event at all as sort of a validation of the talent pool that was in Strikeforce. First Dan and then Cung.
I don't know if I, would go that far as to say that. I think, obviously I'd like to represent Strikeforce while being their champion, but first and foremost, I just need to represent, myself and what I've done in my career, and I don't feel any pressure to perform because of coming from Strikeforce at all. I think it's Yeah, I think it's pretty much consensus that Strikeforce had some top fighters in there and top champions in there, and you know, I'm not worried about proving anything.
I'm actually with Dan. I'm just excited to be part of this fight card with Dan Henderson and Shogun being the main event, and for me to fight Wanderlei Silva, I'm just excited. I'm not worried about anything else, but just this fight.
Okay, and one question for Wanderlei. I'm wondering, do you see this fight at all as sort of a do or die type thing? Like, if you lose this fight, would this be it for you?
No. I don't have this in my mind. I think my performance is gonna make me fighting again.
All right, great. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Now moving on, we'll go to Stephen Morocco with MMAJunkie.com.
Hi, can everybody hear me?
Hey, Stephen, once again, we all love you, buddy, but you sound like you're dialing in from under the ocean.
It looks like his line did just drop, so we'll move on to Elliot Lashansky with UltimateFighter.com.
Good afternoon, everyone. The first question is for Dan, and that is with everything that you've accomplished in your career to this point, is there anything in particular that you feel you need out of this run in the UFC to kind of complete your career?
Well, just like anyone, I have set goals for myself, and one of those goals is to obtain a UFC belt. So that's definitely on my list. But in order to do that, I need to get past Shogun and have a good performance.
Just out of curiosity, what memories do you have of your fight in pride with Shogun's brother back? I mean, it's more than 10 years ago now, but what do you remember specifically, if anything, about that fight?
It was a tough fight. It was a war, and I expect, I guess, the same from his brother.
And for Shogun, do you have any memories of watching your brother fight Dan 10 years ago, and has that influenced you in your training for this fight?
Maurício, você tem alguma memória, alguma lembrança de assistir o teu irmão lutando com o Dan Henderson há 10 anos atrás? E se tem, de alguma forma, isso influenciou o teu treinamento para essa luta?
Eu acho que, com certeza, foi uma luta que eu vi, assisti muito essa luta do meu irmão com o Dan Henderson. É uma luta bem disputada. E meu irmão é um cara que me ajudou muito na estratégia da luta e com certeza eu espero impor meu ritmo na luta e conseguir a vitória. Mas eu acho que com certeza o meu lutador e o Dan Henderson já há muito tempo atrás já mostrava que estava no seu alto já desde aquela época.
Well, certainly that was a great fight. I watched that fight between my brother and Henderson a number of times, and it was a very competitive fight. My brother was one of the persons that helped me a lot building my strategy for this fight against Dan. And I hope to be able to impose my rhythm and my game in the fight, knowing that it will be a tough fight, a great fight with a very tough fighter. And that fight between them was a great fight, and I really have good memories of it.
Those are my questions. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
All right, great. Thanks very much. Now we'll move on to Tom Go with FifthRound.com.
Hi, I have a question for Dan, or a couple questions for Dan. Dan, Shogun's last 3 wins have come within the first round, and his win before that one was a 3-round fight against Mark Coleman, which wasn't too impressive. Does that give you greater incentive to try to push it into the later rounds?
Yeah, I'm aggressive throughout the whole fight and always try to finish a fight. So, I mean, I don't know if it gives me any greater incentive to do anything other than make sure I just stick with my game plan and you know, try to outstrike him and you know, just kind of win every aspect of MMA. And he's well-rounded, and that's going to be tough to do.
All right. And also, he's mentioned that he wants to be the first to knock you out. I know you've heard that before. Is that something you take a lot of pride in, that you've never been knocked out in any of your losses, or do you look at it as though a loss is a loss regardless of how it came?
Yeah, I mean, a loss is a loss. I mean, I guess I can get knocked out just like anybody else. I've been lucky enough not to get hit on the button, I guess, during my fights. But I really, good luck to him on that one.
All right. And if I can ask one question for Wanderlei. After your last fight, Dana suggested that it might have been your last fight for the UFC. I know that you had in your mind that you wanted to continue, but was there ever a conversation that you had to have with Dana to try to convince him that you could keep going?
No, I have a lot of fun in the world, and my fans want to watch my fight, and what has happened in the last fight can happen with everybody, like in the first 3 minutes, everybody is strong, one punch, finish the fight, you can tell, like Cain Velasquez is going to retire right now because he lost in 1 minute, this can happen with everybody. I think in one fight, can tell all about the fighter, I know I'm going to fight him again, again and again.
Okay, thank you.
All right, great. Thanks very much. Well, once again, ladies and gentlemen, that's star one if you'd like to queue up to ask a question. Again, that's star one. All right, moving on, we'll go next to Leif Knudsen with Fox News Minneapolis.
Hi there, this is Leif Knudsen. Question for Cung. I know you fight very infrequently with your movie career and everything, maybe once a year, maybe a little less even. Was there any stipulations in your contract with the UFC that you have to fight a certain amount of fights per year?
No, there's not. So that's why I signed the contract, because I'm definitely, I got a dual, a career with fighting and doing movies, so I'm just happy to be fighting this weekend, so I'm very excited.
Sure, and Dana doesn't typically have a ranking system. If someone has a very impressive performance against a formidable opponent, you can jump up into title contention. So maybe with one or two impressive victories or knockouts as you've had in your career, he may mention throwing you in against, even Spider, which is a dream matchup for everybody. Is that something that weighs in your mind going into this fight, or?
No, actually, not at all. This is a great matchup between myself and Wanderlei. So I think, Wanderlei comes to fight, I come to fight, and we're going to have a really good fight come Saturday. So I think this is a good fan, fight to watch. Actually, the whole card, every fight on this card is exciting. So, it's going to be it's going to be a great card for all fans to watch.
Exactly. Okay, and Hendo, you mentioned you've been talking recently about facing John Bones Jones. I don't know that anybody's called him out. Him and Rashad have had back and forth, but Jones apparently fired the first bullet. You clearly fear no man, but what do you see in this game that you think you could expose?
I really haven't given a whole lot of thought to that since I've been matched up with Shogun. That's been my focus, and I think Jones is very unorthodox, and it'd be a fun type of fight for me. But I haven't really given it a whole lot of thought as far as game plan or anything else yet. I'm really focused on this fight, and none of that can happen if I don't have a good fight on Saturday.
It's a dream matchup with Shogun here. Can't wait to see it. Good luck to all you fighters.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. Now moving on, we'll go to Dave Meltzer with Yahoo Sports.
Yeah, this is for Cung. What schedule as far as like movies do you have, and when was the last? And how long have you been able to train for this fight? And do you have a window for a while, or is this kind of like you're going to fight and then you're going to a movie pretty soon?
Well, actually, I'm the last time I came off a movie set was at the end of February, and then I got back and I took a week or two off, and then I was back in the gym, every day training till now. So right now it's just all my focus is on Wanderlei and whatever movies that is lined up or isn't. My manager taking care of that, so I'm just focused on this fight right now. And then I'll sit down with my team afterwards and see what's going on. But right now, it's Wanderlei Silva.
Mm-hmm. Okay, cool.
All right, great. Thank you very much. Well, moving on, we'll now take a question from Mike Chiappetta with SB Nation.
A question for Dan first, please. Dan, when you made the move to Strikeforce, it came as kind of a surprise at the time. Now that that part of your career is in the rearview mirror, would you say that you're happy with that part of your career, making that move and kind of going away from the UFC? Any regrets, or are you content with what transpired?
I'm completely happy with how things went. I've got no complaints and no regrets at all. For that part of my career, I just, I was fortunate enough to be in a situation where I was when my contract ended. And wasn't satisfied with what offer I had from the UFC at the time, and went on and started talking to Strikeforce. So.
Yeah. And the terms you're under now with UFC, much more, you're much happier with?
Yeah, absolutely. I wouldn't have signed the deal if I wasn't satisfied with it, and it was. We're all here to kind of get along and make some money at the same time, and get some good fights to the fans, and I think they're happy, and I'm happy with the deal we have now.
And so when you sign, are you sort of under the impression that you're a light heavyweight now? That's kind of the track you're heading on, or will you still kind of go back and forth wherever they need you until potentially you get in a title mix or a title shot, I should say, or what's kind of your understanding of your career track now?
Same as what it always has been. I'm pretty versatile as far as what weight class I can fight, and I don't think that's going to change.
Okay, so let's say you win on Saturday. Obviously, you were the champ at 205 in Strikeforce, but you have history, and you've said you've wanted that fight with Anderson Silva, that rematch as well. Which one would you prefer? Would you prefer to fight for the 205 title or the 185 title if either or both were offered to you?
I'm not worried about it right now. It all depends on timing a lot of times and who's matched up with who at the time. So, honestly, it's something I'm going to think about after this fight, and I don't know which one I'd rather have.
Okay, thanks. And for Cung, please, Cung, would you have fought again without this opportunity, or would your fighting days have been over if this opportunity to fight with the UFC in your hometown hadn't transpired?
Yeah, I think it's really hard to answer that question because I'm a fighter first before I'm an actor. But I think if this fight wouldn't have happened, it could have went either way. It could have, I could have just maybe hung up the gloves and focused more on the movie career. But this opportunity came up, and everything happens for a reason. So I jumped at it, and I'm glad everything worked out. And now I'm finally fighting for the UFC. So I'm honored to have this opportunity.
In between your last fight and now, obviously you've done quite a bit with the movie world. Had you been offered many fights that you couldn't take, or chose not to take because of movies, or chose not to take maybe even because the fight wasn't something you were interested in?
No, right after the last Scott Smith fight, I wanted to fight right away because I was in good shape. I didn't take any damage during that fight. But Strikeforce, they don't have as many fights as UFC, so I got I got put on hold for a while. So I just jumped right into the movies and did 3 movies back to back, and then UFC ended up buying Strikeforce, and then I just felt like maybe here's my opportunity. I could fight in the UFC, and it actually happened. So I'm grateful that it did, and now I'm able to fight my first UFC against a legend like Wanderlei, and I'm excited. And I trained really hard for this fight, like I always do on every fight. But it's exciting to be matched up, and with someone like Wanderlei. So I'm excited.
And does it mean something different for you to fight, under the UFC banner as opposed to Strikeforce? Obviously, you've had a decorated career up until now, anyway. But does it mean something different for you now to be fighting for the UFC?
Well, of course, UFC is top of the food chain, and they're the one who's really put MMA on the map, and it's always exciting to fight for a different league. That it's like going from the CFL to the NFL. So that's how I see it.
Okay, very good. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
All right, great. Thank you very much. Well, once again, ladies and gentlemen, that's *1 if you'd like to queue up to ask a question at this time. Again, that's *1. And we will go back to Stephen Morocco with MMAJunkie.com.
Hey, calling in from 50,000 Leagues. First question for Dan. Dan, do you think that the way that things transpired, going back to Strikeforce, going to Strikeforce and then coming back to the UFC, do you think that your relationship with the UFC is somewhat unique? A lot of guys aren't able to do that. You sort of went to Strikeforce and came back. Do you think your relationship is unique?
Well, I think a lot of guys weren't in the situation I was in as far as already having an established career and just having the timing work out to where my contract was over at a pretty highlight part of my career, and I think I was just fortunate enough to do that. And I don't burn bridges, and I had no hard feelings or didn't take anything personal that they didn't offer me enough money or try to keep me the way I thought they should have. It was nothing like that at all. I just felt that, that I was worth more and that I was going to explore other options, and I did.
And I know this has been touched on a little bit earlier, but about which weight class you're going to fight in. But do you still feel the same, that like there's really only one opportunity you want at middleweight, and then the rest of your career is going to be at light heavyweight?
Yeah, I mean everything's kind of up in the air right now. I'm not concerned about it, but I'm also not. I'm never enthused about cutting weight. So it is what it is. I think if I was to cut weight, there'd be only one matchup right now that I would do that for. But things change with different fights and opportunities. So I'm not ruling anything out at all. I'm open to doing whatever.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Uh-huh.
All right, great. Thank you. Now we'll move on to Mauricio Deo with UOL.
I'll ask in Portuguese to Shogun. Oi, Shogun, tudo bom, cara? Queria saber um pouquinho da sua preparação, né? Você não continuou o trabalho que você fez pro UFC Rio, que tinha sido com o Rafael Cordeiro. Queria que você comentasse um pouco de como foi diferente daquele camp para esse.
Então, no UFC Rio eu fiquei em Los Angeles 2 meses e meio e para treinar com o Forrest. Na luta do Dan Henderson, eu analisei junto com a minha equipe, acho que vai ficar no Brasil, até porque eu acho que essa luta é uma coisa muito importante, é a parte de estratégia, então eu preferi ficar no Brasil e treinar um treinamento mais secreto, mais isolado assim. Então foi essa o grande motivo de ficar no Brasil para essa luta.
Traduzir. Posso perguntar, então, perguntar para o Wanderlei. Wanderlei, queria que você comentasse o que você aprendeu com a última luta ali contra o Liben. Se aquela derrota inesperada, né, rápida, faz você mudar um pouco como você vê a próxima luta, talvez ser um pouco mais paciente?
Isso, acho que vou ter que lutar de uma maneira um pouco mais defensiva e levar essa luta aí é que luta tudo pode acontecer. E cada lutador que você luta tem um estilo diferente. Esse lutador que eu vou agora tem um estilo totalmente diferente do outro atleta que competir. Então eu tô com o jogo preparado todo para esse meu próximo adversário. Eu espero poder fazer uma boa performance para todo mundo aí.
Ok, obrigado.
Valeu.
All right, great. Thank you very much. And moving on, we'll go to Dave Meltzer with Yahoo Sports.
Okay, I've got one for Wanderlei and also for Cung. But Wanderlei, Cung Le's a very unique kind of fighter. What did you do differently, or did you bring people in to emulate him? And what challenges is it to fight somebody who really fights very different from anybody else you've probably ever fought?
Him having one unique style, it's a really good fighter. I saw his tapes, I studied his game, and it's so hard to find some guys fighting like him. But we bring some guys from Taekwondo, from other martial arts, and try to make a game plan for a fight with him.
And for Cung, how long have you had a relationship with Scott Coker? And given that you were one of Scott Coker's main fighters for years and years, did you ever think you were going to fight in UFC, or was it one of those things where you figured at some point it was going to happen? And also, when did you first hear about Wanderlei as a fighter? Because he's been around and on top for a very long time.
My relationship with Scott Coker dates back all the way to '98 when I first signed with him and fought on the first ESPN2 Strike Force. And when he sold the company and UFC wanted me to fight for them, he gave me his blessings. And I actually started following Wanderlei when I started following Dan in Pride. So he's had one of the longest win streaks in Pride, and it's an honor to fight someone like Wanderlei for my UFC debut. I wouldn't want anything less.
All right, Mr. Meltzer, did you have anything further?
I guess what were your feelings as far as when Strikeforce was sold? I mean, did you think that now is the chance to go to UFC, or was that thing kind of open before where you could have gone to UFC if everything had worked out? I know you've talked to Dana before then. I mean, but when Strikeforce got sold, kind of like your thoughts at that point.
Well, at first, because Scott and I were pretty good friends, so I figured I would just end my career with Scott Coker and Strikeforce. But when UFC bought it, I definitely, I was excited, and there was more of an opportunity for me to be able to fight for UFC, and then it happened. So everything happens for a reason.
And does it make you really happy that and you end up not just fighting in UFC but also fighting in San Jose, where it's your hometown with your friends, and you've had probably as much local support as any fighter in any city in the country, I think. So how does that the aspect that your debut is in San Jose?
Well, it's awesome. It's like full circle. I had my first MMA fight in San Jose, and now I have my first UFC fight in San Jose. But there's a lot more distraction because all your old friends from high school, junior high, they're definitely hitting you up for tickets for free. But I'm excited to fight in San Jose.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
All right, great. Thank you very much. We have time for one final question, and that'll come from Brendan Churchin with MMANonstop.com.
Hey guys, thanks for the time today. I just wanted to get some insight from Cung and from Wanderlei. I've got my insight and my ideas of how that fight's going to go down. But Wanderlei, from your perspective, I'm curious to see how you think your style matches up with Cung, and then in the inverse, Cung, how you think your striking style will match up against Wanderlei.
I think he has I think the fans can expect one great fight, one great match. We have a stand-up style, and I hope we will make a great show for the fans here in San Jose and for the fans around the world.
This is a great matchup for the fans. Striker versus striker. I definitely think there's going to be some fireworks, and I mean, there's so many great fights on the card. It's going to be like an all-star game.
Definitely. Well, thanks a bunch, guys, and best of luck to all you guys on Saturday night. I appreciate the time.
Thank you.
All right, great. Thank you very much. At this time, I'd like to turn the conference back over to Mr. Dave Schaller.